All right. Hello again, everybody. It's Techman Joe, and I am here with Serena Madro, our senior manager or senior technical evangelist.
Yes.
Yes, I know it's something like that. I will get this straight once I stop fumbling. Uh, and we are here to celebrate Inkathon. But before we celebrate Inkathon, a few little caveats I want to get everybody on board with. I want to make sure everyone knows that we have a questions and answers pod. We want the questions thrown to us. So please, by all means, engage. We also have the same link that you used to get into this Hangout. If for any reason there's technical difficulties or you're having trouble with hearing, sometimes logging out, logging back in takes care of all of those problems. And aside from that, really, let's learn more about Sierra Madro and about Will before we get into Inkathon, because Will is really what it's all about, right?
Will is where it is.
I like it.
So, yes, my name's Sierra Madro, and I'm the Will Technology Evangelist.
Thank you.
And
I knew I was going to fumble it.
yeah, it's okay. So I'm the Will Technology Evangelist, and Inkathon is a large part of what we're doing right now to get the word out about Will, what Will is and what Will can do. So Will is a cross-platform developer language for digital ink. It allows any developer, whether you're using iOS, Android, Windows, or web, to create an application quickly and easily that will include digital ink capabilities. And it's that simple. That's what Will is. It's the Wacom ink layer language.
Outstanding. I mean, we've got, hopefully everyone can read the text behind us, but we've got a presentation going on actually behind us. We don't have to do any of the share screen stuff. So, and you see, I can't even, here I've got my top 10 questions for people here, but I can't read them without my glasses. So, one of the questions I liked is, can Will accept, the more complex input? I mean, well, let's stop and slow down a little bit more about just, elaborating on the cross-platform nature of Will.
Yes. So I mentioned iOS, Android, Windows, and web.
Mm-hmm.
And web is one of the fun parts of that because web is what allows us to include with the digital ink seamless real-time collaboration. And that means if you can imagine 2 users, 10 users, any number of users, all attached to the same basically virtual workspace on the web, being able to seamlessly collaborate using digital ink. And that's something that it's like the standard whiteboard application, but brought to the web, brought to digital, and brought to people's capabilities of working with coworkers in another country, or being able to have that kind of brainstorming, for tutoring sessions for a student and a tutor. Being able to do that very quickly, very easily, using ink, which is way more intuitive than trying to type out those kinds of things. So that's just not the creative way to go.
And we're learning more and more as in fact we're seeing more pens and pen technology enter the marketplace that as nice as presentations and documentation and PowerPoints that look more like Word documents are handy, people still want a pen, and it's becoming more and more visible.
That's because there's nothing simpler than actually being able to pick up a pen and draw on things, say hello to people.
Now show them the iPad. You're really doing this real time, and this is a web-based thing, as you all know.
Yes.
So the Will file format. I mean, there's a pile of questions that, as a layman, I would have, and hopefully it's at least the starting point for a number of questions out there. How hard is Will to adopt or to implement? I mean,
it's dead simple. That's one of the things that was really important to us as we were developing the software development kit for Will, was making sure that it was as simple and straightforward to integrate as possible. So obviously we have full documentation for all 4 platforms, including sample code and sample projects for each platform. We've had developers who have taken the Will SDK integrated it into an existing application in less than a day.
That's impressive.
That's quick.
That's impressive.
And it adds that new functionality, it adds that excitement, and gives your users a whole new way to interface with an application.
So, I mean, some applications have drawing technology built into it. Does Will actually enhance, or does it impair? How does it interact with existing drawing and inking functions?
It works alongside most drawing and inking applications right now. Will's primary functions and features relate to capturing ink and rendering ink. Those are the two primary areas where Will is big. The capture side, depending on what your input type is, so whether you're using your finger, whether you're using a Wacom pen, a Bluetooth pen, depending on the hardware capabilities, we can capture different types of information, store that as metadata, and include that with the stroke as it's being rendered. Then on the rendering side, when it comes time to display it, we have some of the most advanced rendering options available for Will that makes it beautiful.
I've seen how fast it can perform. So you've talked about the agnosticity of the platform. So you also mentioned there that you use fingers or pens. So what is the limitation for input devices or input types for Will, or is there one?
It really only is based on the hardware limitations. From a software perspective, anything that can come in and registers as a touch input, a pen input, we can take that into Will and we can use that to capture and then subsequently to render. So regardless of whether you're using your finger to make a stroke or you're using a Wacom pen on a Wacom digitizer, doesn't really matter. We've got the same capability to take that in and to render it. Now, the quality of the pressure sensitivity, those kinds of things will vary depending on the hardware capabilities. But that's really, from the software side, we take whatever hardware information we can get, and then we store that and then render it.
So my understanding would be, for instance, the Surface Pro pen, which can deliver pressure sensitivity. If users asked enough from people, they might be able to get the more enhanced information fed to Will.
Yeah, it's going to
But it may or may not be there depending on who the manufacturer is and if they choose to expose it.
Right. It really depends on what the manufacturer is exposing to the operating system. If the manufacturer exposes it to us, then we will use it. And
I like the sound of that.
Why don't we just kind of show
little
what
show
this,
and tell?
It's show and tell time.
I like the show and tell time.
As much as it is good to try to talk about Will, it's even better.
So that you don't see the glare off this. But yeah. Okay, so real time, we have two iPads that are going through the interwebs, as they call it, or as I tend to call it.
Yes.
And all right, so this is very fast.
This is complete real time. So I'm going to turn this around
all right,
here.
let's see if we can get the glare down. Where's glare down? There we go. There we go.
Oh.
Hard to see, but
yeah.
So real time. The beauty of this now is what I have not seen in whiteboarding apps done in the past is we could literally both be doing this at the same time. So collaboration, real time, anywhere in the world with very lightweight file formats is what I'm. So speaking of file formats, let's talk a little bit about what's being delivered. How is this information going? I mean, we don't need to get into the bits and bytes of it, but
we won't get too deep. I'll spare you that.
So how'd you do that? No,
it's magic. It seems like magic sometimes to some people, but fundamentally, this is using the Will stroke format, and it's being delivered. These two applications. This is a demo application that we created for CES.
Okay.
And what we've done here is we've used Will, obviously, and these are custom Android applications for these Samsung tablets. These are connected to a server that is actually in Western Europe across the internet, and let's just say we are not
Dang.
in Western Europe right now.
No, we're in Western U.S., just for the record.
So these are both attached to the web. The application is sending essentially data chunk by data chunk, which is sort of like pixel by pixel.
Mm-hmm.
It's sending individual data chunks to the server. The server is taking that, sending it to all of the devices that are attached to that same
basically that same
screen.
application or that same
same space.
Yeah, okay.
The same space that we have here. And we've actually had this particular demo application we've had running with about 15 clients simultaneously connected and displaying the ink that's being shown on here.
So I'm gonna dive, maybe this is premature, but into the will file format.
Yeah, I just keep writing on here because it's just too much fun.
It's silky smooth. The brush engine is very, very fast. The ink or the will file format, I mean, there are so many questions pile up.
Yes.
Is it, I mean, how open is that? I mean, so we've got ink that's obviously, I'm assuming fairly lightweight because it travels very fast.
Yes, it is very lightweight. And actually, you know what? Let me see. One of the things that's really nice about having the pen when you're trying to do things is that you can more quickly and easily jump around inside
which I've now forced you to do within the presentation because,
so,
I'm that way.
Okay, will file format.
Excellent. Oops,
see?
Jumped the gun.
I can jump around. We can be flexible here. So will is based off of OPC. The will file format is based off Open Packaging Conventions, which is a standard OPC format. It's a universal standard.
Okay.
And that allows us to have multiple data types within the same file package. So we can have digital ink, we could have imagery, we can have text. There's a lot of different things that can be stored within the same will package. The ink aspect of the will package is tiny, tiny.
Itty bitty.
Is
okay.
itty
I like
bitty.
itty bitty.
Yeah, and we actually have some testing that we've done based off of that. Full information on the FAQs, both on our developer.wacom.com site as well as our inkathon.devpost.com site. Let's just drop those in while
just throw them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have information about that in the FAQs on those. But the actual ink aspect of the files, very tiny, but this is an extensible format and it's designed to be open. We are trying to make will as much as possible an open standard. This is freely available. The commercial license is free. It's easy to get. Regardless of what you want to use this for, we've tried to make it as simple and easy for developers to obtain, to license, to use, and to work with.
And so with that, I mean, we've kind of listed out a number of the things you get with the SDK. In fact, I think you've pretty much covered off on all of the things that you get with the SDK. And how hard it is to implement. Basically, people are doing it literally overnight. What is Wacom doing to demonstrate its adoption of will?
We have integrated will as our primary ink capture and render engine for every application that we use and the new hardware projects that we're using as well. So if you've seen, and those of you on the Hangout, if you've seen our new Bamboo Spark, it's sweet. That's a technical term.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, actually,
it's sweet.
Yeah. Since rad is kind of passé, you can't
Yeah.
use that one. So
No.
we'll just run with it.
It's really cool. It gives what Bamboo Spark is. It's a smart folio, and the smart folio allows you to write on a regular piece of paper with a regular pen that obviously includes our technology behind the scenes. As you write on that paper, it's captured in will format. Then you push the button on the folio. It's uploaded directly across Bluetooth to an iOS or Android device, and using will.
That part, yeah.
And then the Bamboo Spark application, also using will. can take that, can render it beautifully, can allow you to continue to edit that ink in the digital realm, making changes to colors, making changes to sizes, any of that. And then you can import and export the .will format to other applications like our Bamboo Paper app that allows you to bring in will format files and continue to make changes and share.
Or, in this case, anything you guys develop for Inkathon.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so if you use the will format, then you can have that import-export and be able to manipulate and deal with will format information from other applications.
So, and I realize I'm kind of bouncing around, but you're covering so much so fast. You mentioned it's stroke data.
Yes.
And my relationship with inking traditionally has been largely through, obviously, graphical applications where, obviously the file sizes are much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But then inking has become known, I'm used to seeing it like on the Windows platform with InkML.
Mm-hmm.
Define the biggest difference between the will brush stroke capabilities and InkML, for instance.
Will takes inking to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah, it's next level. Because in the past, if you've looked at most ink stroke data, it's basically had a beginning point and an end point. And then you draw between those two. Now, there may be a whole bunch of little points to give the illusion of a curve, but it's really been point data. And will goes to the next level. We have employed active smoothing engines, we have color rendering, we've got natural fat curves. All of this comes from our shape fill rendering. Instead of using point to point, we're using basically a
stream of
circles.
Yeah.
A stream,
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. A stream of circles.
Okay.
And that allows you to have natural curves and allows you to also include things like stroke splitting. So if you've drawn a line in some of the traditional archived tools, then then if you try to erase it, you erase the whole line.
Right. It treats it like an object.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have stroke splitting. So if you try to erase something, you can set up that pinpoint accuracy for the erasing and still maintain all of the metadata for each individual part of that line and show what you've erased. Since one of the bits of metadata that we capture is also timestamp, that allows you to do things like play forward and backward the drawing that you're doing. So as you're making this, you can imagine a slider bar, be able to see that stroke appearing or disappearing.
Now, since this is so new, we obviously we aren't seeing a lot of the full-featured, robust capabilities of what you can do with will, and of
Right.
course, once again, that's an invitation, just for the record.
Yes.
So theoretically, one could create export videos of a whole
Yes.
presentation.
Yeah. If you can imagine, like a complex whiteboarding session with a team that is dispersed around the world, being able to identify using the unique pen ID that we also can capture in metadata, be able to identify who drew what, identify who was drawing it when, be able to capture a video of that and play it back over time and be able to say, you know what, actually, let's go back a little bit. Let's splice this here and take this brainstorming in one direction and take another brainstorm in a different direction, starting from the same whiteboard spot.
So I'm envisioning so many different uses for this. In fact, I've mentioned how powerful, and once again, an offer to those out here listening. McGraw-Hill has educational software. I could totally see this in there. The Khan Academy, I mean, it's practically an extension of what they're already doing.
Yes.
The possibilities. Are you familiar with RS Animate? They do something very similar where it's a live presentation, but rather than seeing the person's face, you're seeing someone thinking visually, and it's.
Yes.
I mean, the ability to actually capture all of that real time, and it's such a lightweight. That's huge. That's massive.
Yeah, I think the education capabilities and possibilities are huge, because I can imagine remote tutoring, being able to have an instructor sharing how to do a mathematical equation, because that is incredibly difficult to try to type.
Well, and
share that and then get information back from students and see the thought processes as they're happening.
And obviously this isn't the direction this needs to go, but it's so powerful, because, I mean, when you're talking about math or even general processes, watching the process happen as you're talking about it's very different than just laying out an equation and, you know, you're talking about the numerator and someone's like, well, which part of that is, which part's that?
Exactly.
So, I won't get too deep into the specifics because you and I both have a love for the education system.
Yes.
But what other kinds of uses do you see this taking on? I mean, obviously we've got the collaboration aspects. The data's there. So what else can you do with it?
Well, we see Will actually being a digital ink that can follow you through the day. Okay. So whether you're at work, at home, at school, we're allowing you to continue to capture and share that information with yourself, with others, with coworkers, with family members. So we've got, mobile workflow that we've got here.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all right. We jumped around a little bit. See, this is definitely real time. We're not faking any of this.
Definitely real time. So mobile workflow. We've just been talking about online education at school. We've got lifestyle, creativity, social networking. Imagine being able to send actual emoticons, not just the little, yellow smiley face.
The random frowny face that you get from the colon,
Yeah, so social networking. But I think we've got some real opportunity and possibilities when we start looking at security and we start looking about personal authentication. I mean, your signature.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people start thinking about how secure is your signature. Well, when you're starting to look at a little bit more information than just what it looks like at the end.
Visual representation.
The visual representation of your signature. There's a lot of information. I write my name at a completely different speed. I hold my pen at a different angle than anybody else does. So there are basically biometric aspects of signature that we can capture.
You're on to another one of my favorite topics, because I actually did a little looking into this 5 or 6 years ago when we first started dabbling in biometrics. So, I mean, you take in all, and the beauty of Will is it captures all of this with the timestamp data and all the other fun stuff. It captures your pressure, your tilt potentially, the time it takes for each aspect of a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fake that. I mean, you cannot fake that. I tried to draw an X, like the guy I watched draw the X.
Mm-hmm.
And I failed the signature test every time. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's
that's actually something. We have a signature SDK that is available, and that's available off of our developer.wacom.com site. You can get information about it there. And our signature SDK works together with Will. So it actually has Will integrated as its capture and render engine, and then it has additional smart stuff
going on in the background.
on in the background around signature. So there's biometrics, there's a lot of really interesting areas. But if you think about it, most people have a pen in their hand at some point during the day, whether you're writing on a Post-it note or writing on a screen. And being able to have that ink be your personal ink that's following you through the day, that's a powerful opportunity to really capture people at an emotional level.
So this, I mean, I'm going to go out and throw out a couple things that have crossed my mind just to stimulate some of the folks that may watch this now or may watch it in the future. The idea of even if they used it for creativity, because the engine is powerful enough to continue using as a drawing engine. It doesn't have to be for signature. You could literally almost create a biometrically secure image file for all intents and purposes, because at that point it is clearly that artist who did it, because every stroke in it is a signature of that artist.
Yes.
That's conceptually insane. But I mean, that's the kind of level that you guys can go to with this. This is, Huge opportunity. So let's kind of circle back to Inkathon itself, since that's what this is about.
Yeah,
you guys,
there is this contest that
there's
we're
that
doing.
contest that, oh, by the way, this is all about. Inkathon, who is this available to?
So Inkathon is a global competition. So anywhere that it is legally possible. So those of you, there are some countries around the world, and they're listed on the inkathon.devpost.com site in the official rules. Anywhere that it's open and available. And the only restrictions, just in case other Wacom people are actually watching this, no Wacom employees. Sorry, guys, can't do it.
And now there's a pretty big purse at the end of this for the winners.
There's we have over $50,000 in prizes that we're giving away. Yeah, so the grand prize is $20,000. We've got a second prize at $10,000, third prize at $5,000, and the top 5 finalists all get a free trip to CES in Las Vegas in January, where we're going to be promoting the top 5 applications and helping to make sure that those applications get the best exposure that they possibly can to the 130,000 people that come through CES every year?
Well, and that's CES, and of course I imagine Wacom's marketing will extend beyond that to our own website. So
yeah, we really see Inkathon and this is a continuing long-term investment in ecosystem. So this is something that we will continue to work with, promote, and sponsor as we go forward.
And so I've already blatantly called out a number of rather large corporations. What happens if a large corporation steps up to the plate and actually gets involved in this as well?
We would love and welcome large corporations to be involved. Within the Inkathon format, if a company has more than 50 employees, then they're considered a large organization. And the large organizations don't compete for the cash prizes. We leave that for the smaller guys, but we do have large organization awards that are available, and we would welcome their participation at CES and in additional promotions throughout the year.
And once again, it's a good way to become kind of an immediate partner of sorts with us for marketing purposes and get your name out there with the software.
Yeah, we definitely welcome large organizations to participate as well.
So. And I realize we're kind of running beyond the time, and I want to address the questions that come in as well as maybe a couple others. But the first and most important question is, how does one get involved?
That's easy.
Okay.
Inkathon.devpost.com, and we have links to. Actually, that's what the link is on the screen right now, inkathon.devpost.com, and that is where you would register. There's information there about how to register and receive the Will SDK, and you have to get your registration submissions in by November 6th. That's the deadline. And just in case this video lives a long time, that's November 6, 2015.
There you go. It's kind of important, and that's CES 2016.
Yes.
Just for the record. I think we've covered off on quite a bit of this. I'd like to get some of the questions. First off, that was asked, a question for import functionality, given a path just as a set of X and coordinates, can Will render this path? The points of the path are not in order, i.e. describing a circle, but the points are kind of distributed equally. I'm not sure that's how Will is. You can.
I'm reading the question as I'm seeing it here on screen. So generally speaking, we're expecting to have the input coming from a hardware device, whether it's a touch screen or a pen, something like that. And I'm not sure what operating system or what's going on here, but I know we had a similar question that came through on the Q&A forums on the Inkathon site at inkathon.devpost.com. And when we are capturing, there's a particular function that we use, that function expects the points to be in order. So if the points are received out of order, then that function will actually get rather confused. But because it's expecting them to be in order based on time. But because we have the timestamps available for each of those, each of the X, Y coordinates basically, then it's possible to order those before passing those into the function, and then it should actually render correctly.
And if I'm understanding it properly, I mean, one of the first things to remember is that will is part of the capture system.
Yes.
So I mean, it may just be receiving point information if you're using your finger, for instance, on a touch screen. Mm-hmm. And so it would, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question. If not, please give us some more details. I have a little question about, so maybe once more what you get in the SDK, but also what's the difference between, let's say, the two projects, the productivity versus the creativity projects?
So we have specific projects that are included in each of the various SDKs. So we have separate SDKs for Android, iOS, web, and Windows. And that's primarily because each platform handles their data input just a little bit differently. So the various SDKs are very, very similar, very compatible, but they're not exactly the same, and that's intentional, and that's by intent. So the projects that we have are really designed to help give developers that creative push, that idea about what can be done with the various SDKs. So we wanted to make sure that there's the options, the capabilities for them to see what you can do if you're using this more in a creative drawing type of way, or if you're using it more for handwriting types of applications, note-taking. So we've tried to make sure that we have sample applications available that provide those kinds of information.
One of the things I know we've kind of circuitously talked about is the cloud.
Yes.
And I didn't preface this one with this one's coming out of left field. No. But I mean, so this will is capable of being basically this streaming concept. Mm-hmm. But cloud collaboration, like, because the timestamping, I'm possibly answering my own question, but basically iterative collaboration, where someone could basically check something in. And you'd have an ongoing record of the timestamps of collaboration that might happen through different time zones.
Yes, yeah. So while we obviously support real-time collaboration, you can do not real-time.
Almost like check it in, check it out. Yes.
Yeah, you can certainly do collaboration that occurs over time. So the Will SDK can connect to a variety of different cloud-based services. So we have, Wacom has our own Wacom Cloud and Inkspace, and the Will SDK is capable of connecting through Inkspace. We also support, if a developer has particularly if you're looking like a large company, if a developer has their own cloud solution and wants to share information through their own cloud services, Will facilitates that. So if you are saving a .will file, somebody else can open that .will, continue to edit it, make changes, save it again, and you can continue to collaborate, check in, check out kind of way of doing things, as well as real time. So it's really quite flexible. And you could do things like, even if you're collaborating with yourself, you could save an application. Yes,
because I do that, actually.
I do that too. So I'll create something on my phone that I then open on my tablet, that I then make changes on my desktop system. And all of that can be facilitated through cloud services, through automatic data exchange, and be very, very seamless.
Outstanding. What's funny is I'm going through all these questions, and it looks like we've really answered a good portion of them. There are some good basic ones that I think need to be answered, though. Like, let's see, how is the inking view represented on different platforms? I think That one's pretty specific. I'll dodge that one.
Although I'm actually going to answer that in a general way.
Okay,
I'm going to answer it in a general way. One of the things that was very important, we've talked a lot about the capture side of Will, and I'm going to mention briefly the render side of Will. One of the things that we wanted to make sure across platforms is that we have the same beautiful ink, so that it actually looks good and looks the same, whether you're using something on Android, iOS, any of our supported platforms. So it should still be beautiful, and it should still look very similar. And that's something that we spend a lot of time and effort making sure that that happened. So the render side of things is actually a really strong point of Will, being able to create something that looks like your handwriting. Because if you've ever signed, say,
at the store,
at a store, and you probably know exactly how bad it can be and how little it can look like your signature.
I've actually had it make mine look better, but that speaks volumes for how bad mine is. No.
Yeah. That's your own problem.
Yeah, that's a personal issue. I like the and this is, I don't normally take to know very well, but can I use HTML Canvas 2D context with Will?
So I'm going to give you no and.
Okay, I like no and, because
no and.
Solutions are good.
Yeah, no and. We actually include a sample project that gives you the capabilities that you would be expecting. It shows you how to use canvases with Will in an appropriate way. So while we don't use that canvas, we do have other options that are available, and the sample applications make it very straightforward to see ways of using Will within web-based applications and the other platforms.
All right, that one was clearly queued up, because on top of that, what I've experienced is it's actually better. So just for the record. You know, honestly, I think most of the rest of this we have really already gone over. If I had to have you sum up one thing, though, why would you want to do this? Aside from obviously the money. The money's good.
Well, why Inkathon, or why Will?
Let's go with why Will. If you sum it up for everybody who sat through this half hour, let's give them the 5-second or 10-second segment on.
So I'm going to wax philosophical.
I love it. Okay.
Because why Will actually goes back to Wacom's overall mission statement. I mean, we have the mission for a creative world, and we have created the hardware solutions in the past that have released people's creativity in amazing ways. Now it's time to release their creativity in new ways through software, and allow that software to allow people to be more creative in new ways. Whether you're a digital artist, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a student, whether, like me, the best you can do with drawing is, in fact, a smiley face. You know, there is creativity inside of everyone, and we want to release that creativity. And what we've done is created the Will SDK to allow software developers to release their creativity, making new apps that will make this a creative world.
No, I knew I pulled that one out of left field, and I knew you had knocked it out of the park. So that was absolutely brilliant. Hopefully, you guys get the value of Will. You certainly get everything that comes with it for free with our SDK by getting involved. Get involved with Inkathon. Join us, and thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you.
Thank you much. You guys, take care. Keep smiling.